Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a meeting of Brant County Council of December the 17th, 2024. Attendance has been taken, noting that Councillor Miller is not with us tonight. Takes us to number 2 on the agenda, which is the land acknowledgement, and Councillor Kyle is going to do that for us.
As we gather, we acknowledge that we meet on the lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, Six Nations of the Grand River, and the traditional territory of the Attawandaronk. We remind ourselves that the County of Brant is situated on lands that are full of rich indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people today. We recognize the significance of their contributions to the past, present, and future of this land. As a county, we have a shared responsibility for the stewardship of the land on which we live and work, and a commitment to the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action. We commit to continue learning, reflecting on our past, and working in allyship.
Thanks, Councillor. That takes us to number 3 on our agenda, which is the approval of the agenda. Does anyone have anything to add to the agenda? Seeing none, Councillor Bell.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Pearce, that the County of Brant Council agenda and addendum of December 17th, 2024 be approved.
Thank you. All those in favour of the agenda the way it stands? Thank you. Takes us to number 4 on the agenda, which is the declaration of pecuniary interest. Does anyone have any to declare? If you find one that crops up, please let me be the first to know. And we'll move on to delegations. Tonight we have 3 delegations that have registered, and we have a request to speak from a 4th delegation regarding Brant School Road. Can I get a motion? How does council feel about it? We're okay to let them speak. Councillor Coleman is saying yes. Councillor Pearce is saying yes. And we'll call a vote. All those in favor of the 4th delegation? Thank you. Noting we have 4 delegations now. The first delegation is 5.2, which is, 5.1, which is Bruno. Bruno, you're here. If you'd like to come to the podium, please, and give us your full name and your address for the clerk. And you'll have 10 minutes to speak, and then we will open it up to questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Bruno.
Put your microphone there so we can all hear you. Thank you.
Again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Bruno Artenosi. I live at 34 Clearview Heights in King City. I'm here to ask Council a little bit of help with a problem that we have with one of our developments here on Pample Road. And this matter was before Council back in October. I was away and our councillor appeared, and you graciously agreed to give us a partial building permit for the amount of space that we could accommodate the existing parking. I hope you recall that. The address is 18 Park Road, and I come a little bit unprepared. I thought we might have had an overhead, but in the absence of that, I have one diagram that I can pass around so that the council can see what it's about. Okay. So, Mr. Mayor, this is the first of 3 phases that we have assembled. We've got about 22 acres along Colburn Road East and Pample Road. The first phase consists of a 9-unit condo building. And when we planned this, we planned it to accommodate contractors, generally speaking, small contractors, and we approved it. We had it approved with 19 spaces. Phase 2 is coming before council on January the 14th. It consists of 26 units on the corner of Colburn and Pample. Phase 3 is still being developed, but that will probably be 2 years down the road. Our current situation is that we planned this building to accommodate general contractors, but in the advent of COVID, the market has changed and everything seems to be upside down. The clientele that we had chosen, or we thought that we would accommodate, doesn't exist today. We have a fine building. It's beautifully built. Councillor Coleman has been there to see it. This is a picture of the building. But we only have 19 parking spots. In the absence of the clientele that we were aiming for, we have since entered into an agreement with a dance studio. We have 1 unit already leased, and we have commitment for 4 other ones from a dance studio. But the requirements of the dance studio far supersedes the amount of parking that we have. So on October the 17th, together with staff's cooperation and council, we were given a couple of options of how to add or how to solve the problem. One was to add more land from the back, and the other one, which was more expedient, was to add an empty lot that we own on the south side of the parking spot of the site. And in adding that site, it is the great part on that drawing. We're able to accommodate 28 more parking spaces. We've had it engineered by Cahoon, and we've applied for an amendment to the site plan application, I believe last week. The partial building permit that you provided us on October the 17th is being built. However, the clientele of the tenant, there's about 60, 70 people are anxious to get in there. And if we go the full gamut of the process, wait for approval and then build it and so forth, we're going to be 4 to 6 months down the road. And if I can be frank with you, the interest costs are enormous. There's a better way, we think, and we hope the council will consider it. Our solicitors are going to convey that property, number 10 Papel Road, to the existing site of 18. That is being done probably by the end of this week. With that property being added, we're going to have to make a couple of amendments to the condominium application. But suffice to say that to have it incorporated properly, we need the amendment to the site plan application. Staff has recommended we go through a site plan agreement or a pre-application meeting, which would take us well into January, February, and that is very, very hurtful to all concerned. What we're here to ask of council tonight is in processing the land with the deed conveying the land to the site, and we are already in construction mode. Actually, if you want to have another look at another picture, we've sort of taken the bull by the horn, and we're preparing the site according to the engineering drawings. And suffice to say that if there's any accommodations we have to do, we're prepared to do it. What we're looking for from this council is in us conveying this land to the site to extend the full building permit for the 4 units that the tenant is anxious to get in there and that his clientele is clamoring to get. I invited Councillor Coleman to have a look at it today, and he can speak to the site itself. In the end, this whole corner is going to be quite a beautiful looking place with commercial and industrial units. And if you can accommodate us to expedite this, we're not asking for anything over and above what we can produce. We're going to produce the land to the county, and if you give us the permission to do the full renovations and to move ahead with this tenant, we are applying for the site plan amendment application. We will fulfill all that. And to me, it seems like a very pragmatic way to solve a problem that we didn't expect, that nobody expected. But it enables the developer to proceed ahead, and enables the tenant to proceed ahead. It enables the clientele, the tenant, to have their children in the dance classes, and we can solve this problem in the coming months. And having said that, I'll be anxious to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Does council have any questions for the presenter? Lucas, you're first, please, and then Councillor Chambers.
Through the mayor to the delegation. Am I understanding correct that you've already started work on the site before applying for the site plan application? Because I see there's trees down on the property, so on and so forth. So you've already started clearing trees.
So we own all the land. We own that site. It was basically an empty piece of land. And because of the favorable weather conditions, hasn't frozen yet. We've taken the liberty of grading it in anticipation that you would consider our application worthwhile approving. So we've started that.
Thank you.
Councillor Chambers?
Thank you, through the mayor. I might be oversimplifying this in my own mind, but essentially, are you asking us to direct the building department to issue a building permit?
What I'm asking you is, since we are solving the problem by adding the extra land, that would give us way more parking spaces than we're going to need. In the advent of that deed being produced, then you have the authority to say, okay, we can proceed with the balance of the building permit because we have the extra parking spaces. We haven't got it finalized by way of a site plan agreement, true, but we are in the process of doing that, and in fact, we've already applied to the county.
Again, just are you suggesting that the council has the authority to direct the building department or the building inspector to issue a building permit?
I suppose in simple words, yes.
Any other questions for the presenter? Councillor Bell.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, more a question for staff. I'm not quite sure why we're receiving this and being asked to make decisions. Why is this not following the normal planning process?
I'll find that out for you. Alicia, do you have an answer for Councillor Bell?
Through your worship to Councillor Bell, perhaps a slight, just bringing council up to date. The delegation is correct. You will recall there was a delegation previous to this where they'd essentially requested to be able to go ahead without the permitted parking. The Development Services Division went back, thought it through, and thought, okay, what can we do? The solution that we had come up with was what the delegation has alluded to. Council will recall that the parking spaces was linked to the square footage occupied. And so as opposed to proceeding with the full 4 dance studios within the building, a compromise was arrived at where we could issue a building permit for 1 dance studio. Square footage would be allowed. It would comply with zoning based on what was currently available for parking. It would get them into the building while we worked on a permanent solution through the site plan approval process. Delegation is also correct. Site plan amendment for the site plan application was received last week. It was circulated immediately. Comments are due back, I believe, the January 16th. My team is working as fast as we can on this to get this forward. There were some initial concerns, not a lot of concerns. There was some stormwater concerns, which might require a second submission. We're not sure at this point, just because comments haven't been received back from all of the departments. But again, the issue is the director of planning can't sign off on the zoning until the parking is there. My recommendation would be, we're already there. Application's been received. Hopefully the studies are sufficient and we can just go ahead and sign, at which point it would be the current process. One issue would be that the parking actually has to be there. That being said, it sounds like that's happening, and my staff will deal with that as well. But this is going through the normal process. The solution here is the site plan agreement, which we're getting there at.
So could I just summarize that then? This is just for information.
Yeah, it's just for information, Councillor Bell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and this is more of a comment than a question. Is that all right?
Yeah.
First, I wanted to say I'm pleased to see the additional parking spot solution. Like, I think that's great. I had some reservations about the dance studio in and out traffic and classes overlapping and lots of parents in the parking lots picking up their kids and stuff. So, I'm happy to see that. However, this whole process is leaving me a little bit confused and concerned that while it seems like a solution that staff may be supporting, this the circumventing of the normal process, I fear sets a precedent where we could have lots of development applications coming to council with similar needs, saying, can we skip the normal processes and do this? So I'm a little concerned about that. So just putting that out there.
Thanks, Councillor House. Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I guess this will be directed to staff, is can we get a rough timeline? What can this be completed if there are no more complications on whatever? I think that would help to appease the situation.
Through Mayor Bailey to Councillor Coleman, that would depend on what the comments are that come back. So comments go out, they're coming back January 16th. We'll turn those over as quick as we can, assuming the applicant then, it would either require a second submission or we would then be at the site plan agreement process. Even if it requires a second submission, again, if that comes back to us quickly, we could turn that around in a matter of weeks. I believe that the heavy lifting on this has been done already. What was required was the documents to submit to support the site plan application. So at this point, I would think just because of the time of year, a month or two and we'll be finished, assuming the submissions are sufficient.
Any other questions or comments to the delegation, the presenter? Seeing none. Thank you. What does council want to do? We're looking to receive for information. Councillor Bell, seeking a seconder. Councillor Oakley. Any other questions? Councillor Chambers?
Mr. Mayor, could I ask staff a question through you with regard to the issue?
Absolutely.
It's my understanding that the council has delegated responsibility for site plan control to staff. Am I correct on that?
Alicia.
Through your worship, that's correct. We would not need to come back for approval to approve that site plan.
Second question, is my understanding that building inspectors have statutory authority and council cannot direct building inspectors on what to do. That is their statutory responsibility. Am I correct in that?
Through your worship, that is correct. Council cannot direct the chief building official.
So if the council has delegated authority for site plan control to staff and site plan control is being worked on in order to get a building permit issued, then am I correct in assuming that there is no role that the council can play in this process?
Through your worship to Councillor Chambers, what I would recommend is that we allow the approved process to carry on. We are very close to finalizing.
I think your question was answered. So we have a motion and a seconder just to refer it back to staff. Let the process continue. Everyone's clear? No other comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
5.2 and 5.3 are both going to be seen online. Stephanie is here from MHBC Planning, and we're going to keep them separated. She's only here to answer questions. She's been in front of us before, and she's not really here for discussion, but she's here for any questions you might have regarding the first one, which is PLC1, PLC2, and PLC3, 24-KD. Councillor Bell.
I found this very cryptic, Mr. Mayor. I have no idea what these things are. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then we're going to have to go deeper than just questions. Yeah. And we're going to have to ask Stephanie to present what you're looking for.
Mr. Mayor, is it just a point of principle? Should we be looking at things like this when we're not given any information about what the subject matter is? This is not a planning matter. I'm sure this is for our planning council, not for regular council.
Okay, I think you're probably right. Stephanie, what are you looking for tonight from council?
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. Stephanie Murdoch with MHBC. I'm just here this evening in support of the application, just for the bylaw to be passed for the application, and I just wanted to be available this evening if there were any specific questions on the application. If you want to remind me of the application number, I'm happy to just give a brief overview. I just want to make sure we're on the right item.
Okay, I'm going to let Alicia maybe clarify more to your ask.
Through your worship to Councillor Bell's question, so just to provide a little bit of context, so what we're talking about are two bylaws which are on the agenda. So the first one is bylaw 126-24. So this is for a part lot control bylaw. That is with regards to the Nith Peninsula Phase 1. And so council would have received a Friday file memo from our supervisor of planning on Friday, just outlining what this is essentially, and Stephanie can jump in. Essentially what this is allowing a certain parcel of land to be subdivided in accordance with the subdivision agreement that we have entered into. The second bylaw that she is here to talk about is I believe is 127-24. And what this one is this one is just a removal of holding for our live communities at 1024 Rest Acres Road. So in accordance with their phased plans, they're just ready to move on to their next phase of development. And so this is just removing the holding so that they can do that.
Councillor Bell? Yeah, you're okay. Are there any other questions to Stephanie regarding the two bylaws? They are separated, so we will vote on them separately, but the first one, any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the support of the bylaw? Or just, well, she's speaking in support of the bylaw. I guess we just receive it as information. Yep. You're good? All those in favor? Yep, to receive as information. I'll call that vote again because it was a little all over the place. All those in favor to receive as information? Thank you. Moving on to the second one, which is 5.3. Same idea, holding, there's two. Councillor Chambers.
I'm just wondering if we had a mover and a seconder for that last.
For the second one?
We did.
We had one for the first one. We need one for the second one, which is 5.3. Councillor Coleman and Councillor Oakley. And this is to remove the holding on the bylaw. All those in favor? I'm sorry? Yes. Did I not say, what did I say? Thank God they're recorded, eh? All those in favor to receive? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think I'm thanking her. That was a little bit confusing. Now we do have 5.4, which we have agreed to let the speaker speak, and you have 10 minutes to come to the podium and give us your name and your address. This is the fourth delegation.
Good evening. My name's Dave DeFrancisco, and I reside at 132 Brant School Road in the County of Brant. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Councillors. I come before you this evening out of a little frustration over the mishandling of the chip and tar operation that was carried out on Brant School Road in the County of Brant this summer. I'm sure most of the councillors here this evening received my emails and pictures that were sent on the 30th of November and the 5th of December of this month, and hopefully these emails were shared with the mayor. I have some pictures that I could present.
Can you just give those to the clerk and she can take them around? That's okay, thanks. Oh, you're okay.
Included in these pictures are two recent photos taken on December 11th, post the first plowing operation of our roadway this winter. This last set of photos perfectly illustrates the fears I expressed in emails and sent to council. To be brief, I will highlight the points I made. I've resided at 132 Brant School Road since 2006, one of the first new homes built on the road. My best guess for taxes paid in 2006 were approximately $3,000. When I took the permit out and paid the development fees in 2005, my taxes and my first year's taxes and fees were only $5,500. In 2024, my taxes were $87, $85, $45, and I suspect I will be paying well over $9,000 in 2025. Since 2005, Brant School Road has been chip and tarred at least 3 and possibly 4 times. The last time was July or August of this summer. Since 2006, at least 13 new homes have been built. The last time was one of the worst applications I've seen to date. I say this because most of the chips applied did not adhere to the road surface caused by either insufficient tar being applied or an over-application of chips. This resulted in a mess on the roadway, the end of my driveway, and excessive amounts of dust to be emitted every time a car passed over the surface. Naturally, I expected the road contractor, who I assume was Cornell, was set to return and remove the excessive amount of chips that slowly accumulated on both sides of the roadway south of West Harris Road. This is evidenced in the photos I presented. By November, I realized this was not going to happen. From right after the road was redone in July or August to this point, my wife and I have been unable to traverse the shoulder of the roadway with our adult handicapped daughter, who uses a walker for walking, which has been our habit for years. If you refer to the pictures 1 and 2, you will see the windrow of chips that accumulated and were at the end of my driveway, approximately 4 to 6 inches in height and approximately 30 inches in width. So I called the county roads office at the end of October or the beginning of November and spoke to Emily to share my concern and ask for the county or the contractor to return and clean the mess up. I expressed my fear that if this was not done before the first snowfall, the county plow, which travels down our roads in excess of 60 kilometers an hour, would broadcast this windrow of chips onto my well-manicured front lawn, as has been the case at least 3 times in the past, sometimes sending the chips 15 to 20 feet onto my lawn. In the past, either myself or my employees have raked up and removed these chips from my lawn. Emily responded that she would relay the message to the road supervisor. By the last week of November, seeing no action taken to clean this up, I called again, spoke to Emily, and again informed her that if it wasn't cleaned up by the following weekend, I would take it upon myself to clean up the mess and would expect some sort of discussion or reimbursement by the county or the contractor. Again, no action was taken to remove the chips that I believe were swept to the road's edge and left there. As mentioned earlier, this has not allowed us to walk on the edge of the roadway, but also has made it extremely dangerous for those driving on the roadway, as this condition would cause the tires on a car to lose traction and possibly loss of control of the vehicle. On Saturday, November 30th, I took a broom, shovel, and my loader and cleaned up a small portion of my road frontage, some 1,000 feet, to try and prevent the inevitable. And please reference the photos. This clearly illustrates the excessive chips deposited on the shoulder and end of my driveway due to the inaction of the county and its contractor in not removing them. Due to my age and the condition of my back, I could only manage to remove approximately 1.5 yards of the chips. I'm no longer willing, nor should it be the expectation of the county, for the residents of Brant School Road to remove these chips. I would like to be reimbursed for my efforts so far. It has also been my expectation that the county staff or the contractor returns to my residence in the early spring of 2025 and remove the chips that have now been broadcast on my lawn and will only worsen over the winter. Reference pictures 8 and 9. If it's a small ask, and if not agreed to, I'll have to consider my options going forward. I will also seek the help of handicap advocacy group, rights group, to resolve the inequity displayed to the county or by the county for this blatant disregard for my daughter's right to traverse the roadway in a safe manner. Any tripping, slipping, falling, or car accidents that occur during this period, the county of Brant will be held liable for. This argument is significantly illustrated by the following. North of West Harris Road, the county applied a slurry solution approximately 8 years ago with no chips added. This road surface has held up well and has not had to be reapplied since. The residents on this portion of the road have not suffered any inconvenience or cost, as illustrated in the prior points of fact. They also enjoy unencumbered access to the road. It's safe, has no chips built up at the end of their driveways or on the road shoulders. I encourage you to drive down Branscrew Road and see the circumstances for yourself, and then ask if it would be acceptable in Paris, St. George, or Burford. In closing, nothing of any significance has changed on my road or this area of the county during my 19 years on Branscrew Road. Paris has seen much change with the addition of an arena, enhanced roadways and sidewalks along Rest Acres Road, and now a new library, to name but a few. I'm sure the residents of my part of the county subsidize the enhancement of lifestyle elsewhere. I'm only asking for fairness, access to the shoulder of my road, and the reimbursement of money spent and any future money spent. In closing, I'd like to thank Councillor Coleman for getting me on the agenda tonight and making a personal visit to my residents to hear my concerns, and Councillor Gould for responding to my concerns in an email. I thank the Mayor and the rest of Council for hearing me out this evening, and I'm hopeful for an amicable resolution that addresses the issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we go to questions, I'm going to see if Mr. Walton has anything. You've seen these pictures.
Through the mayor, no, I have not seen the pictures, but I did visit the site this afternoon after I learned there's going to be a delegation.
Okay.
So through the mayor to council, actually I did have a chance to talk to staff before the meeting tonight, and there has been dealings with the resident here during this project. Clearly the resident has not been happy with it, but it is basically a standard tar and chip project, the same that happens on all of our other roads. The contractor is the same contractor for the many number of years in a row here, and I think really what's being portrayed here is the dissatisfaction with this type of treatment on the road. There's really not a lot else we can do here. You know, there are no sidewalks here as far as access to shoulders. Very, very small shoulders on the road. This is the standard of road we have here, and you know it's millions of dollars to change that. Many residents that have manicured their lawns in front of their properties on tar and chip roads or gravel roads deal with the issues of granular material which comes onto the properties, and we do not reimburse any of them for that. If that's a standard that we want to change in the county of Brant, we need to add a lot of money into the budget, because this is not the only property where these issues happen. So
If I
didn't
may,
have a lot of time to prepare for the delegation, so that's what I can report tonight. Thank you.
I just refer to that point that I made about north of my roadway. You guys put a slurry solution all the way up to, I can't remember the name of the road, but just north of my residence. And it's held up extremely well. There are no chip and tar at the end of any of those driveways. And my residence was built prior to any of that. So I'm not quite sure when you guys decided to test that slurry solution out that you didn't extend it past the other 3 brand new homes that exist past that corner, but you chose not to. And that is a point of fact.
Thank you.
You can visit the road and see for yourself.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions? No. Okay, I'm looking for a motion to receive his information. Unless someone wants to do something else. Councillor Coleman, what do you want to do?
Refer it back to staff, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Seeking a seconder to defer back to staff. Councillor Garneau. Are there any other? It's either a fire alarm or your time is up. I'm hoping your time is up. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. We have a seconder. Councillor Howes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment. As there are accessibility elements within the residents' delegation, I think it would be worthwhile to also share this information with our accessibility committee, because I think it's a topic that's not necessarily discussed regularly in terms of accessibility in rural roads, and worthwhile just because it's been part of his presentation.
I think that's a good idea. Is that a friendly amendment to Councillor Coleman and Councillor Garneau? We'll send it back to accessibility too. That's great. Anything else? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, takes us to number 6 on the agenda, which is the adoption of the minutes from the previous meeting, and Councillor Chambers has those.
Yes, I do, and it's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Kyle that they be adopted or approved, I guess.
Thank you. Are there any questions to the minutes of the previous meeting, November the 26th? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none. Consent items to be approved. Governor's Road West and Cleaver Road, agreement extension requirement. That's Clint. Is he here? Mr. Walton, you want to speak to that? Or
Through the mayor to council. So the issue with Cleaver Road and Governor's Road West has been going on, so I believe it's 2013. Last year, we brought forward a report to extend the agreement for 1 year so that Lafarge and the county had a good chance to really put a good work plan together to complete this project. They're just about done the extraction in this area of the pit, but a couple of things that have to happen towards the completion are actually going to require an application for them to amend their pit license, which in the worst case scenario might take 18 months. We hope that it doesn't take that long, but I had hoped that we would be able to complete this job in 3 years, and I still believe that we can, but Lafarge has asked for 5 years, and we've agreed to recommend that to council with the hope that it won't take that long, that amendment of the pit permit doesn't take that long, and the rest of the work will fall into place. The good news here is that most all the neighbors on Governor's Road West actually like it the way it is right now, so nobody's really pushing for it to be open. So we're working on a good plan in the next 12 months or so. That should fall into place. The construction will fall into place after that. I highly doubt it'll take 5 years to finish this. So I told them when we're negotiating this, no more extensions past whatever we ask for here. So.
thank you. Can I get a mover to get this on the floor, please? Councillor Coleman and Councillor Bell. It's a 5-year extension that they're recommending, hoping that it will take 18 months to maybe 2 years. Does council have any questions? Councillor Pierce.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just with this and what Mr. Walton said there, are we able to adjust it to up to 5 years to try and push them a little bit? Because my way of thinking is, even though we think it might be sooner than that, if we give a full 5 years, they may take a full 5 years. Not to say they won't if we do the up to, but it kind of maybe adds a little undue pressure.
Mr. Walton. Mr. Walton, are they open to anything like that?
Through the mayor to Councillor Pierce, I don't see any issue with that at all. That's certainly the intention from Lafarge and from county staff, is it would be done as soon as possible. So if that's the wording, I don't see any issue.
So does council want to change the wording, or do you want to send it back to staff to negotiate the wording with the pit?
I would propose an amendment to it, just to put up to.
Up to 5 years?
Yeah.
Okay. Friendly amendment. We'll vote on the amendment first. All those in favor? And then we'll vote on the recommendation. All those in favor? There we go. Thank you. (8.1.2), which is the impaired driving program. Heather Boyd, you're going to speak to that.
Good evening, through the mayor. There's really not much to speak to. It's a pretty straightforward request. The OPP just brought to our attention that they haven't received their RIDE grant funding announcement yet, so This will just be saying that if by chance it doesn't come, then we will put it through as part of our OPP cost, which will be, even if that happened, it's a very, very small percentage of our costs and will probably just be absorbed in the amounts already there.
That's right. Again, we need it put on the floor. Maybe Councillor Pierce can bring it forward since he's on the Police Services Board. And looking for a seconder, Councillor Garneau. Heather, is there a very good chance that that money is going to come through? Is there a reason why we would expect it not to come through?
No, we've gotten it years over years. It's always been here before the season started. I don't know. I have no understanding why the province hasn't announced it yet. But
do you think it's the mail strike, Miss Boyd? Anyway, we have it on the floor. We have a seconder. Any other discussion? No one's concerned? No? All those in favor? Opposed? Thanks, Heather. The next thing we have to talk about is the review of the councillor appointments for the next year. So I don't know that there's any easy way of doing this. First of all, if you're not happy on any of these boards, tonight is the night for you to skedaddle off the committee or the board and let someone else do the work. And so let me entertain, first of all, anyone who wants to resign from any of the committees. And we'll go to Councillor Chambers first.
Yeah, I wouldn't phrase it skedaddling off of SCORE, but as I indicated at the last council meeting, I have a difficult time attending the morning meetings that SCORE usually schedules their meetings for. And I indicated at that time that I would be asking to be allowed to step down from SCORE, and which would necessitate an appointment for another member to take my place on SCORE. And Mr. Mayor, since that time, if you want to deal with SCORE at this moment, since that time I've been approached by no less than 5 members of council. I didn't think it would take 5 members of council to replace me on anything, but I may be reading into that, but I would like to place before council nominations for those 5 councillors did approach me and suggest that they would like to attend SCORE. Those councillors being Councillor Garneau, Councillor Coleman, Councillor Miller, Councillor Oakley, and Councillor Kyle have all expressed an interest in that to me, so I would like to nominate all of them, and they can fight out amongst themselves.
All right, well, thank you for that. I did let them know. Councillor Oakley.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll pull my name
down
from that to shorten our list here.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Oakley. I did mention at the last SCORE meeting that you were stepping down, and they were sorry that you were, and they told me to thank you for all the years that you put on the board. They meant it. They're going to miss you at SCORE.
And if I can just respond to that, I'm not sure exactly how many years I was on SCORE, but I'm the longest serving member. I've been a former chairman, and it's been between 15 and 20 years, so I've enjoyed it. And it's not the fact that I would like to get off, but it's unfair for SCORE and unfair for me and unfair for the council to not have a full-time attendee. And I've been missing meetings because of work commitments, etc. So I do intend to attend the annual meeting, which is our SCORE's next meeting, but it would be nice to have a councillor in place for the annual meeting.
Right. You don't think you've got the 20 years left in you?
Michael Jordan retired early and he regretted it and came back 10 years later and won the NBA championship, but that's not in my cards.
Well, just know that you're going to be missed. So what we're going to do when we have a situation like this, we're going to have a ballot vote, and the clerk is going to send around ballots, or Heather Boyd is going to send around ballots on behalf of the clerk, and we're going to vote for either Councillor Garneau, Councillor Coleman, Councillor Miller, or Councillor Kyle to be the second, is that right? To be the second appointment to SCORE. I'm staying on SCORE as the mayor, and then I just need one councillor to be on the board with me. Heather. Councillor Chambers.
Just procedurally, I'm just wondering, we didn't actually talk about what happens if there's a tie and that kind of thing. Obviously, with the number of people being considered, there won't be a majority, or perhaps there will be, but if there is a tie, what do we do then?
Well, I think we've all watched so much Survivor that we know that we pull rocks.
Start a fire.
Isn't that what you do? You do rocks and then you start fires, little fires, and then someone always wins at the end. I think if we have a tie, then we'll all just vote again with the two names of the two people that we're tied with, and maybe the two people that are being tied with won't vote. That should do it, and we won't have to get out the rocks. It's been a long day for the mayor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so Councillor Kyle was the successful appointee.
Congratulations to the Board of SCORE.
So we will need a motion to appoint her.
So a motion to appoint Councillor Kyle to the Board of SCORE. Councillor Chambers, maybe it should be you.
Yeah, I'll move that we thank Councillor Chambers for his long-term service on SCORE and welcome Councillor Kyle and endorse her appointment to SCORE.
Seeking a seconder to thank Councillor Chambers, Councillor Coleman, and then we're unanimous in thanking you for 20 years of service on the SCORE. On the scoreboard. Yeah, somewhere there was a welcome to the board for Councillor Kyle, and we'll use the same names, Madam Clerk. It'll be Chambers and Coleman, and we all voted to wish her the best. It's a great board. You'll love it. Okay, which takes us to planning and development, which we already did. Councillor Bell.
Brant County Health Unit will cease to exist as of the end of this year. It will be replaced by Grand Erie Public Health. Today we have two members of the board of Brant County Health Units, yourself, myself. In future, our allocation is one, and we need to bring forward a nomination.
Right. Councillor Oakley, are you just bringing forward a name?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Before we do that, I think we should explain to council what's happened at the unit. The new board, the new amalgamated board, only wants one member from the county of Brant, but they've asked us to bring two names forward, one being the primary member that we really want, and then if for whatever reason things change, we'd have a secondary one to follow through. And if I could just speak before we do nominate, I don't know, I've been on the health unit since 2018, or since COVID, sorry. Councillor Chambers was on before me. I went on just during COVID when the mayor of Brantford went on. We thought it was a good idea for the two mayors to sit on the health unit together. And I think it was a good decision that we made, and I'm glad that we did. So I've been on the health unit with Councillor Bell through the amalgamation process of the health unit with the city of Brantford, Norfolk, Haldimand. And I would like to keep it the way it is, because we've just gone through, I mean, you can nominate who you like and those people will win, but I'm suggesting we need stability on the health unit right now. It's been a very tough year at the health unit. It was not an easy amalgamation, not easy at all. And I'm just thinking, I'm thinking that, I don't know if I could put a name forward first, but I would suggest we leave it alone and leave Councillor Bell where he's comfortable. And he's done so much of the work to amalgamate, and I would stay on as the secondary, knowing that probably there's a very good chance I wouldn't be called on to do anything, but it's just the thing to do if that's the way they've asked it to roll out. So with that being said, that's just a recommendation, but I will take a nomination. Councillor Oakley.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I actually was intending on nominating Councillor Bell, so that works.
As the primary.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, seeking a secondary. Councillor Pierce. Any other discussion on how that's going to work? The primary is really all we need to really be concerned with, because we know that Councillor Bell then would sit on the health unit And for whatever reason, if something were to change in the process of the amalgamation, I would step in, and it would always be a temporary step in for me as the secondary if someone nominates me. Because I know what's sort of going on, but I have no real interest in staying on the health unit board. It's not a board that I like being on, but it's a board that's very important. And I just know that whoever gets it should want it because it's a big deal and it's a lot of work. So with that being said, if there's a nomination for the secondary position on the health unit. Councillor Bell.
Maybe.
Yeah, seeking a secondary for myself, Councillor Oakley, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? And carried. Thank you very much. I think you'll be happy with the way that rolls out because it was quite a process, and just throwing somebody in blindly at this point would be cruel, and we are not a cruel county. So thank you for that. Planning and Development Committee, we did, I'm sorry, Councillor Oakley?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just while we're on the topic of the committees, I intend to tender my resignation here for the County of Brant License Tribunal.
For the which?
The County Brant License Tribunal.
The License Tribunal. Where is that? Okay. Okay, anyone else want to resign from any committees before we start? Councillor Garneau?
Unfortunately, Heritage, I'm having a really hard time with the scheduling, so I'm gonna have to let that go.
Okay, so Heritage will be up for grabs too. So with that being said, Policy Development Committee, the way it stands now, who chairs that? Councillor Coleman, are you happy with chairing that?
I didn't think we elected chair to the next meeting.
Okay, well, we have an opportunity to do
appointments tonight.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Brant Municipal Enterprises, it stands. Paramedic stands. Brantford Library Board. Do we have any? Someone stepping down from the library board? No? Okay. Police Services Board stays the same. County Advisory Committee, Accessibility Advisory Committee. I think Councillor Miller wants to stay on that. I would think he likes being on that committee unless someone knows that he doesn't like being on that committee. Councillor Oakley?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm currently on that committee.
Yes, so is he.
Councilor Miller. Okay.
So is he, I believe.
Just Councillor Oakley.
I'm on it. Okay, he comes to meetings though, doesn't he? All right. It's been a long day. Agriculture Advisory Committee, we have Kyle and Coleman, that stays the same. Biggers Lane, we have Miller and Garneau, that stays the same. McAlpine House and Garneau for Brant Heritage Committee, and Councillor Garneau is stepping away from it. Does anybody want to be on the Heritage Committee? Councillor House.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe, and staff may be able to confirm this, but I think the provincial requirement or whatever the rules are that apply to this require 2 councillors on the Heritage Advisory Committee. We had 3, but it doesn't have to be 3.
Yeah.
So there's no pressure if
Okay.
if nobody else wants to go.
And I sit on that too as the 3rd councillor if I need to have a vote. Okay, so there's no interest in the Heritage Committee. Cemetery Committee, Councillor Garneau is on it. Community Improvement Plan, that's Councillor Pierce and Councillor Howes.
That's no more though, right?
That one we just got, yes. Thank you for your service. Tree Conservation, we have Chambers, Miller, Coleman, and Garneau.
Tourism's gone, right?
Tourism's also gone, isn't it? Thank you for your service. The Tree Conservatory is Councillor Chambers, Miller, Coleman, and Garneau. That stays the same. Well, actually, they all stay the same. Nobody else is getting off any other committee. Everything stays the same. Councillor McAlpine?
Well, it's just the Chamber of Commerce if you want to jump down to that.
Chamber of Commerce, that is Councillor Garneau.
Yeah, but she stepped down and I took over midterm. I'd be
And
willing to stay on unless somebody else wants it. So.
You want to stay on? Get a nomination for Councillor McAlpine and a seconder. Yeah, Councillor Kyle. All those in favor, Councillor McAlpine stays on Chamber of Commerce to replace Councillor Garneau, and that's the list. Does anyone see any holes in the list or anything they want changed? Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and there's a couple of holes.
Okay.
There's no more Kanesville Community Center fundraising, so that committee can be structured as yourself.
We did a great job. We did a great
And
job.
I believe you're off the airport and Councilor Garneau is there.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's right. And I think that's it. Councillor Oakley.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have a hole to fill on the County Grant License Tribunal since I've resigned from that.
Does anyone want to go on the licensing tribunal? Okay, we'll revisit it the next meeting. Maybe you could come to the next meeting and resign in front of everyone, and that will spark someone's interest to appoint someone else. Okay, that's it for 8.1.3. That was a little bit dramatic, but not bad. I'm looking for a motion just to accept the results of the new appointments. Councillor Oakley and Councillor McAlpine. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, consent items to be received. There's a list of them. There is 11 of them. Does anyone want any of them separated? Councillor Coleman, what would you like separated?
Not separated, Mr. Mayor, but a comment about it's nice to see the minutes back from the OPP. Again, we haven't seen for a while. I'm looking forward to seeing the stats. That's what I enjoy the most reading.
You will enjoy the stats. Yes, you will. Councillor Garneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make a comment on 8.2.1, if I may.
8.2.1, the OPP detachment board minutes. Okay, do you want to separate them or just comment on them?
If council's comfortable, I just make the comment to acknowledge that at that meeting, the recommendation had come forward to dissolve the community safety groups, and this was something that a number of members of our community were challenged by, and they are some of the same individuals who are also challenged by the dissolution of advisory committees. So I just want to flag to make sure that we're keeping ourselves, I think, aware of making sure we're recognizing volunteers and people who have contributed to our communities in meaningful ways, because there's been a lot of change lately that's affected a lot of the same individuals. So I think what's happened has happened, and I think those involved understand. But just to really make sure we as a council too are recognizing those long-serving folks. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And although I thank them for their service when we went by quickly, we have sent letters. We have invited them out for lunch. We have taken them out for lunch. We've explained to them why we've had to dissolve the committees. So it might have seemed flippant the way I did it tonight, but we have done all the right things to thank them for their time and their commitment. And unfortunately, it's the same handful of people that do everything. So to lose somebody on one committee is to lose somebody on the second committee, and then lo and behold, they're on the OPP citizens awareness groups too. So a couple of people, or a few people, got three things taken away from them, and it does seem heavy-handed. But it was all done through staff or through the OPP, and it was never a personal thing. It was a logistics thing, or it was a staff availability thing. So unfortunately, when you have a group of people that are the same people that do everything, and it just seems like there are those people in every community, in St. George and Burford and Paris, the same sort of 12 people do everything. And when you get into the smaller towns of Scotland and Oakland and things like that, there's only 6 or 7 of them instead of 12. So it is still the same people in the county that do a lot of the heavy lifting for volunteers and service groups and committees. So I think we have thanked them properly, and I think that we have appreciated them properly. Before I became the mayor, I was that person. So I do know how hard people in the community work on volunteer boards. So I think it's great that you brought that up. The police services one, Councillor Pierce and I sit on the police services board, and that was truly an OPP directive that was supported by the police services board. It's too bad that it happened because I think a lot of people felt safer when there was people walking the streets and doing things and raising money and feeling like they were really doing a service for the communities which they served by checking on cars that make sure they were locked and all those things. So I know that there's a lot of people upset by the fact that we dissolved those things, but know that it came from the police and not from the county and not from, and certainly not from this council. So as long as people know who to be mad at sometimes, it's okay to be mad. So anyway, anyone want anything else? Councillor Bell?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. 8.2.8, which is the social services budget, if I'm not mistaken. Just a comment that we've now gone past the 3-year period in which we've reached our limit in terms of what we will pay. We're now paying approximately $3 million a year more than we did 4 years ago. And I think it's appropriate, and I understand that's the case, that we are going to review the efficacy of this arrangement and whether we're actually getting value for money. And interesting to know when we might expect to see that report.
Yeah, CEO Newton is going to speak to that. She's working on that now.
Thank you, through your worship. I would hope to have something preliminary to council at the end of Q1 in 2025. That's not going to be the full picture, but that will be the initial analysis of where we're seeing gaps in our current service. And that's not really commentary on what our current agreement is. It's are there gaps in the needs that we're seeing in our community right now versus the services that we're providing. And then the secondary part that'll be done in Q2 and perhaps going into Q3 of 2025 will be to put some numbers to those gaps and then perhaps be able to shore up that agreement. That would be the hope by the end of next year. And by the time we're going to 2026 budget, that we'll be able to provide some good information to council in terms of what we may need to secure in a new social services agreement and what gaps, which would then become a decision of council, we may want to fill moving forward.
Any other discussion on any of the 11? Seeing none, can I get a motion to receive all of them? Adopt all of them. Councillor Garneau and Councillor Oakley. Clear, we're voting on all of them as a package, 11 of them. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. Committee reports. The first one is the Administration and Operations Committee report, and that's Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Bell, that the Administration and Operations Committee report of December the 10th be approved, noting there's 14 recommendations.
Thank you. There's 14 recommendations. Does anyone have any questions to Councillor Pierce on his report? Seeing none. Good night. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Staff reports. 10.1, which is the Community Partnership Policy Update. I need a seconder first. First motion and a seconder. Councillor Pierce, Councillor Oakley. It's on the floor. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Chambers?
Just a comment with regard to the process, and I actually think both staff and the community groups that took part in the analysis of the various drafts that were presented, and it took a little bit of time and effort, but I think the collaboration between the community groups and staff in developing this was a good process, and it's my understanding that the community groups are a lot better satisfied with this product than the original, and that is a credit not only to themselves but to staff and carrying out a process that when you're talking about community partnerships, the policy itself is a partnership, and I think as time goes on, there may be things come up that need to be revised, and I hope there's a revision process in the policy somehow that we don't look 10 years down the line and end up in a position where we should have been doing stuff all along the way.
Councillor Pierce?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. Yeah, first of all, that's a great report. There's a lot of info in there, and there's a lot of input was garnished for that. That being said, when you talk about under the heading of nine clubs and groups, which is fine, but it's got 76 groups impacted, and there was only 12 groups that were had input to it. So that's kind of tough again when we have something like this, and staff does a lot of effort to put it out, and we don't get a lot of input back. That's kind of unfortunate, but I think with some of the changes or updates that have been made on here, I think it deems well for the future, and I like the fact of some of the concerns that we heard from those groups when they came into council have been addressed in this. So that's good, and again, I appreciate the time that's been put into it, and as Councillor Chambers says, I guess it'll have to be like a live document and see how it goes for the next few years, and just keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? So we're looking for we have it on the floor, we have it seconded, so it's just to approve the policy to be approved. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 10.2 on the agenda is the St. George Children's Center funding request. I need someone to get it on the floor. Councillor Oakley and Councillor McAlpine. This was from the presentation we had for the St. George Children's Center. Does anyone have any questions or recommendation then? Recommendation? No? So we'll just send it back to staff, to budget?
No, the
Just to approve it.
recommendation.
Just the grants. The grants, the community grants process for the St. John's, yeah. Okay, St. George. Okay, I get confused now that the foundation is doing our grants, so all those in favor to send it to grants. Thank you. 10.3, which is the final strategic plan. Adam, you're going to speak to this or just for questions?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Council, before you is just the final strategic plan, incorporating a couple of minor modifications from the original draft that was presented in early November. Aside from that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Adam? Everyone took the time to speak to Adam and make sure everything was Councillor Chambers?
Yeah, we did all, I believe everyone received email asking for input, and I'm just wondering, Adam, I listed a few quotes that I suggested should be in the plan. I wonder, are they going to end up being in the plan?
Through Your Worship.
One of them was just while you think about it.
I would appreciate it if you would sprinkle those quotes on us, and then we can think about how we live the plan through those quotes.
The greatest quote that I could find was by none other than Taylor Swift. And she says, just because you made a good plan doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen. And I ended by the wonderful quote by Yogi Berra, which I think is more appropriate. Yogi Berra, everybody knows who he is. If you don't know where you're going, you'll end up somewhere else. So it's baseball player. And just to make a point that just because you do have a plan, it necessarily not going to happen unless we make it happen. And I think that's what Taylor Swift actually meant when she said that. And just a comment to Adam, a great job, I think, from your group that worked on this, and I think it's a good plan, and hopefully it is a good plan, and I'll conclude by my other quote that I really like, and that's Mike Tyson's quote, which everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
As I said, the mayor's had a rough day. I think I got my first punch in the mouth by 8:45, so anyway, that was great. I'm sure they're going to be added to the official plan.
Yes.
They're all
Your Worship, I think we'll figure out a way in the reporting sections of it. They'll probably come in handy.
That's great. Well, thank you for all the work on that. It was great to get it finished finally. It's been hanging around for a little while. So I'm looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Coleman and Councillor Howes, all those in favor? Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Communications, 11.1, Office of the Solicitor General. That was the OPP offset funding. Can I get it on the floor, please, for discussion? Councillor Pierce and Councillor Howes. This is just correspondence from regarding the funding that we're waiting for. Heather said it's coming, but it's not here yet, so it's on the floor. I just need a motion to accept its communications, to receive. All those in favor? Resolution, which is number 12.1, which is a notice of motion. Councillor Chambers, you're just letting us know that there's something that came out of the December 3rd meeting, and you're going to bring a notice of motion later on. Thank you. Oh.
Yeah, this is essentially just a notice of a motion to reconsider, and the motion to reconsider will be at our next regular council meeting, which I think is January 28th.
Thank you. At the beginning of the meeting, I didn't ask anyone if there was any other business for the betterment of the County of Brant, so I'll do that now. Does anyone have anything that didn't get on the agenda that you want to talk about before we move in camera? Seeing none, we'll go to number 14, and we'll take Councillor Coleman to take us into camera.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Garneau, that the Brant County Council convene in camera to discuss 14.1, personal matters about identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. 14.2, personal matter about identifiable individual, education or potential whatever. And 14.3, verbal update, a proposal or disposition of land by the municipality or local board.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman. We're now going to take 4 minutes to clear the room. All those in favor to go in camera? Okay, we're back in open session and we are going to ratify 14.1, which was a discussion in camera. We have Councillor Pierce putting it on the floor, seeking a seconder. Councillor Kyle, all those in favor of ratification? Yep. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Takes us to number 15 on the agenda, which is the bylaws. And Councillor Chambers, you have those?
Actually, I do.
Oh, Councillor McAlpine has those.
My only question is, it's written down that having it only read the second time, don't we need to read it? Oh.
That's right.
That would answer that question, I guess.
That's right. So we're right back to Councillor Chambers.
Okay, it's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Kyle that the bylaws numbered as such be read a first time.
All those in favor of the first reading of the bylaws, put forward by Councillor Chambers. Opposed, carried. Now we're going to go to Councillor McAlpine.
Okay, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Howes that bylaws 123-24 through to 129-24 be read a second time and all preambles and clauses be adopted.
All those in favor of the second reading of the bylaws? Are there any questions to the second reading of the bylaws? Just for the clerk's sake, we have to change this to, who was the seconder on that? Councillor Howes, from Councillor Howes. Okay, if you could do the third reading, please, Councillor McAlpine. You have them. Councillor
Thank you, Mr.
Coleman.
Mayor. This meeting cannot end until I read this. So how long do you want to take?
Let's just give her a go.
Okay. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Garneau that bylaw 123-24 to 129-24 be read a third time, passed, signed, and executed.
All those in favor of the third reading of the bylaws? Yeah. Opposed? Carried. Holy mackerel. Takes us to number 16 on the agenda, which is the next meeting and adjournment next year. This is a Merry Christmas moment, I believe. Merry Christmas to everyone. Thank you for a very interesting 2024. It couldn't have been more interesting, that's for sure. And I can't wait to see you all in 2025. Merry Christmas and happy holidays. We stand adjourned.